The message appeared on every screen across the Galactic Conclave headquarters. Thousands of alien diplomats fell silent as Captain Heather Mason's face filled their displays. Her expression was calm but determined, a stark contrast to the chaos unfolding in the Grand Chamber. "This is Captain Heather Mason of the Earth vessel Dawn Treader," she said, her voice steady. "For 43 years, humanity has attempted to be a cooperative member of this galactic community. For 43 years, we have been ignored, exploited, and treated as lesser beings. Today, that ends." The Vordari delegation, with their scaled skin glimmering under the artificial lights, hissed in disapproval. Their High Commander Zexitral rose from his seat, 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "The human speaks out of turn. This is typical of their primitive understanding of protocol," he declared. Ambassador Samuel Garcia stood alone at the center of the chamber. At 62 years old, he had spent half his life trying to secure humanity's place among the stars. Today would be his last attempt. "With respect, High Commander," Garcia said, "Earth no longer recognizes the authority of this conclave to dictate when we may or may not speak. The annexation of our colonies at New Montana, Liberty Point, and Horizon's Edge represents the final violation of our treaties that we will tolerate." Admiral Lauren Wright watched the transmission from Earth Defense Force headquarters beneath the Rocky Mountains. Around her, military personnel monitored screens showing the positions of every known alien vessel in human space. Her hand hovered over the console labeled Protocol Prometheus. "They won't listen," she murmured to her aide. "They never do." Back at the conclave, Dr. Alan Burke stepped forward. The xenobiologist carried a small data cube in his trembling hands. For months, he had gathered evidence from the few human survivors who escaped the Vordari occupation of the colonies. "Before this assembly dismisses humanity yet again," Burke said, "I present evidence of war crimes committed against human civilians on the occupied worlds." He placed the cube into the central projector. Immediately, the chamber filled with 3-dimensional images of humans in various stages of dissection, experimentation, and torture, children separated from parents, breeding programs, genetic manipulation. The galactic conclave erupted in noise. Some species covered their sensory organs in disgust. Others watched with scientific detachment. The Vordari delegation simply looked, annoyed at the exposure. "These are falsified," High Commander Zextral shouted over the commotion. "Humans are known for their deceptive tactics." First Officer Eric Powell stood at Captain Mason's side aboard the Dawn Treader. He leaned close, to her ear. "Sensors detect Vordari warships moving toward Earth's outer colonies," he whispered. "They're not even waiting for the diplomatic session to end." Mason nodded. "They think this is just another empty human complaint. They've never taken us seriously." The main viewing screen, they watched as Ambassador Garcia fought to be heard over the growing disorder in the conclave chamber. His normally diplomatic tone had given way to genuine anger. "For decades you have dismissed our warnings," Garcia shouted. "You believed humans were technologically inferior, biologically simple, and culturally immature. You ignored us when we warned about respecting our boundaries." The Zelian representative, a gelatinous being housed in a hovering life support unit, moved forward. The Zelians were among the oldest species in the conclave and rarely spoke directly. "Ambassador Garcia," the translator conveyed its thoughts, in a mechanical voice, "humanity has been part of this community for less than half a century. Many species here waited centuries before being granted the privileges you demand. Your species must learn patience." A bitter smile crossed Garcia's face. "We tried patience, we tried diplomacy, we tried cooperation. In return, our colonies were seized, our people were experimented on, and our warnings were ignored. What would you have us do?" "Accept your place in the natural order," the Vordari High Commander said with a dismissive wave of his clawed hand. "Humans are newcomers to the galactic stage. You must earn respect through centuries of obedience." Captain Mason watched from the Dawn Treader, her hands clenched into fists. On Earth, Admiral Wright prepared to enter her authorization code for Protocol Prometheus. The plan developed in secret over decades was about to be activated. In the chamber, Ambassador Garcia drew himself up to his full height. At that moment, he represented not just Earth's government, but every human who had suffered under alien arrogance. "Let the record of this conclave show that Earth issued a final warning," he said, his voice now quiet but perfectly clear in the tense silence. "We asked for respect. We asked for adherence to treaties. We asked to be treated as equals. You refused on all counts." The Vordari High Commander laughed, a harsh sound like stones grinding together. "And what will the humans do? Your ships are primitive. Your weapons are ineffective against our shields. Your colonies are already falling under our control." Dr. Burke stepped forward again. "We studied you," he said simply. "All these years you thought we were just struggling to understand basic galactic technology. The truth is we were studying you, your biology, your psychology, your weaknesses." This caused a ripple of unease through the chamber. Even the Vordari commander's expression shifted slightly. "What does the scientist mean?" demanded the representative from the Krell Directorate. Ambassador Garcia looked at each alien delegation in turn. "Humanity has a saying, don't mistake kindness for weakness. We entered galactic society with open hands. You interpreted that as helplessness. Today, that misconception ends." On the Dawn Treader, Captain Mason received the signal from Earth. Admiral Wright had activated Protocol Prometheus. It was time. "Ambassador," Mason called out through the communication system, "the Vordari fleet is moving against our remaining colonies. Earth Defense Forces responding." Murmurs spread through the conclave chamber. The Vordari delegation seemed unconcerned, even amused. "Your primitive ships are no match for our fleet," High Commander Zextral said confidently. "This display of defiance will only lead to a quicker end for your species." "You misunderstand," Captain Mason replied. "We're not launching a desperate defense. We're beginning a calculated response." Across human-controlled space, hidden installations activated. Ships that had been disguised as trading vessels or debris suddenly powered up advanced weapon systems. Stealth fields dropped, revealing an Earth fleet 3 times larger than any alien intelligence had detected. On the displays throughout the conclave chamber, the alien representatives watched in stunned silence as the supposedly primitive human vessels engaged the Vordari warships. The helpless human colonies revealed planetary defense systems far beyond what should have been possible for Earth's technology level. "What is happening?" the Zellian representative demanded. "Human technology cannot be this advanced." "Ambassador," Garcia's smile held no warmth. "We warned you repeatedly not to underestimate us. We tried to be peaceful members of this community. You left us no choice but to show our true capabilities." First Officer Powell updated Captain Mason quietly. "All units report successful engagement. The Vordari are retreating from 3 sectors already." Mason nodded and addressed the conclave again. "For 43 years, humanity held back. We showed you only what we wanted you to see. That ends today." Admiral Wright's voice came through on all channels. "Protocol Prometheus is fully activated. The galaxy is about to learn why Earth's ancient myths warned against opening Pandora's box." Ambassador Garcia gathered his materials and prepared to leave the chamber. Before he did, he turned to address the stunned representatives one last time. "Earth warned the galaxy. Now humanity is done holding back. Remember, in the difficult days ahead, you chose this path, not us." As he walked out, the emergency alerts began flooding the conclave systems. The age of human patience had ended. The era of human ascendance had begun. General Frank Daniels walked through the massive underground complex beneath the Rocky Mountains. For 20 years, he had helped build Earth's true military force in secret. Today, he would finally see it unleashed. "Status report," he called out as he entered the command center. The room buzzed with activity as officers monitored screens showing battles across 7 star systems. "All hidden fleets have been activated, sir," replied Maria Sanchez, his head of intelligence. Her dark eyes showed no fatigue despite being awake for 36 hours straight. "The Vordari are in full retreat from the Liberty Point colony. They never expected our ships to have phase shift technology." Daniels nodded. The aliens had always assumed humans were decades away from developing phase shifting, which allowed ships to briefly exist out of normal space. The truth was, Earth had perfected it 15 years ago, but kept it hidden. And the Harbinger units? He asked. Dr. Carter is deploying them now, Maria said, pointing to another screen. In a launch bay 5 levels below, Dr. Olivia Carter supervised as her life's work prepared for battle. 100 men and women in sleek black combat suits stood in formation. These were the Harbinger soldiers, humans enhanced with neural implants and genetic modifications that the aliens had thought impossible for primitive human physiology. Remember, your training, Dr. Carter said as she moved among them. The Vordari have never seen humans move at your speed or process information at your rate. The psychological impact of your abilities will be as important as the physical damage you cause. Lieutenant Kevin Ross, leader of the 1st Harbinger strike team, stepped forward. We won't let you down, Doctor. They've been hurting our people for too long. The dropships are ready, Carter said. Good hunting. Across the room, Jake Hoffman made final adjustments to a device the size of a small backpack. The civilian engineer had been recruited after developing a revolutionary propulsion system in his garage. Now his invention would allow human ships to bypass all known alien blockades. Will it work? Dr. Carter asked as she approached him. Jake grinned. Better than in the simulations. The Vordari rely on detecting specific energy signatures. This creates a completely different pattern they won't recognize as a drive system until it's too late. Meanwhile, aboard the Earth Defense Force Stealth, carrier Shadowfall, hidden in the asteroid belt of the Vega system, Captain Nicholas Barnes received his final orders. The Vordari think they have this system locked down, Barnes told his crew. They have no idea we've been hiding right under their noses for 3 months. Today we show them exactly what humanity has been keeping in reserve. His executive officer pointed to a display showing the Vordari fleet. Sir, they've positioned their ships in a standard defense formation, exactly as our intelligence predicted. Barnes smiled. Of course they did. They've never had to adapt their tactics when fighting humans before. They think we're predictable. In orbit around Earth, Admiral Lauren Wright coordinated the global counteroffensive from her flagship. Her face appeared on screens in every command center across human space. For decades, we've let the galaxy believe we were technologically inferior, she said. We absorbed their insults, studied their tactics, and prepared. Today, that preparation pays off. Execute Operation Reckoning. In the Vordari command ship orbiting the occupied colony of New Montana, Fleet Commander Zexavor couldn't believe the reports flooding in. Impossible, he hissed as another screen went dark. The humans cannot have these capabilities. Their ship designs from just last year were nowhere near this advanced. His tactical officer, scales pale with stress, looked up from his console. Sir, we're detecting unusual energy signatures appearing behind our defensive lines in all sectors. They seem to be human ships, but they're using technology we've never seen them employ before. Zexavor slammed his clawed hand down. They've been hiding their true capabilities. Alert the High Command immediately. But the communication channels were mysteriously jammed. The Vordari fleet was on its own. On the surface of New Montana, the human colonists who had endured months of brutal occupation looked up at the sky as strange craft descended. When the doors opened, Lieutenant Ross and his Harbinger team emerged. They moved with impossible speed, neutralizing Vordari guards before they could even raise their weapons. An elderly colonist approached Ross cautiously. Are you human? You move like nothing I've ever seen. Ross retracted his helmet. We're human, just the version we didn't let the aliens know about. The evacuation ships will be here in 20 minutes. We're taking back our colony. In the Galactic Conclave headquarters, now in complete disarray, representatives from a dozen species argued violently. The humans deceived all of us, shouted the Krell ambassador. They presented themselves as technologically backward while building advanced weapons. The Zellian representative's translation unit conveyed its thoughts. This was not deception. This was strategy. We dismissed their warnings. We treated them as lesser beings. Now we face the consequences of our arrogance. Back on Earth, Jake Hoffman watched as the first ships equipped with his drive system disappeared from the tracking screens. They would reappear directly in Vordari-controlled space, bypassing the carefully constructed blockades that had trapped human ships for years. It worked, he whispered. Then louder, it worked. Dr. Carter put a hand on his shoulder. Of course it did. The Vordari think humans are simple and straightforward. They never considered that our greatest strength is our ability to solve problems in ways they can't imagine. In the main command center, General Daniels and Maria watched as battle reports came in from across human space. The supposedly mighty Vordari fleet was in chaos, facing weapons and tactics they had never prepared for. We should have their complete surrender within days, Maria said, reviewing the data. Our intelligence network has been feeding them false information about our capabilities for years. They built their entire strategy on fighting the human fleet they thought existed. Daniels nodded grimly. And our spies embedded in their government? Are they in position? Already activated, Maria confirmed. They've been sabotaging the Vordari response from within. Half their emergency protocols have been subtly altered to create confusion rather than order. Aboard the Dawn Treader, Captain Heather Mason and First Officer Eric Powell watched as the liberation of the human colonies progressed. I can't believe we kept all this secret for so long, Powell said quietly. We had to, Mason replied. If they had known our true capabilities, they would have united against us much earlier. We needed time to prepare. Powell checked another report coming in. The Harbinger teams have secured all major Vordari installations on New Montana and Liberty Point. Horizon's Edge will be liberated within hours. And the prisoners? The humans they were experimenting on? Dr. Burke is leading the medical teams. Personally, they'll get the best care we can provide. Mason nodded, her expression solemn. Send a message to Admiral Wright. Tell her Phase 2 is complete. We're ready to begin Phase 3. As the message was sent, Lieutenant Ross and his team discovered something unexpected in the main Vordari research facility on New Montana. Hidden deep underground, they found thousands of stasis pods containing humans from the colony. What were they doing to them? One of Ross's team asked in horror. Ross examined the nearest control panel. Genetic experiments. They were trying to understand why humans adapt so quickly compared to other species. They never realized that by testing us, they were only making us stronger. He activated his communication link to Earth. General Daniels, this is Lieutenant Ross. You need to see this. The Vordari weren't just occupying our colonies. They were studying us, trying to understand human adaptability. They feared it. In the Rocky Mountain Command Center, Daniels received the transmission. He turned to Maria with a grim expression. They should have feared us more, he said quietly. Prepare for Phase 3. It's time to take the fight directly to Vordari space. Admiral Lauren Wright stood before the holographic display showing 7 battlefronts across the galaxy. Each point of light represented a human fleet, now deep in territories that had once belonged to the Vordari Empire. Just 3 weeks ago, these same areas had been considered completely under alien control. Status report on the Epsilon front, Wright ordered, her voice calm despite the enormous pressure. A young officer stepped forward. The Vordari Third Fleet has abandoned the Rigel system, Admiral. They attempted to make a stand at the jump point, but Captain Barnes and the Shadowfall arrived behind their lines. Wright nodded. Nicholas Barnes had proven himself a master of stealth tactics. His ship could move undetected through supposedly secure Vordari territory, striking at their supply lines and command centers. And the civilian evacuations? Complete. On all recaptured colonies, the officer replied. Dr. Burke reports that 87% of the human test subjects have been recovered and are receiving treatment. The thought of her people being used as lab specimens still filled Wright with cold fury, but she kept her face neutral. Emotion had no place in strategic planning. Open a channel to Captain Barnes, she ordered. Barnes appeared on screen, his uniform showing signs of a recent battle. Behind him, his bridge crew worked with focused intensity. Admiral, he said with a quick salute, the Shadowfall is currently positioned behind the Vordari defense fleet at Deneb. They still don't know we're here. Excellent work, Captain, Wright said. Your next target is their main cloning facility in the Proxima system. Intelligence suggests they're attempting to rapidly grow new soldiers to replace their losses. Barnes nodded grimly. We'll make sure that doesn't happen. Shadowfall out. As his image disappeared, Dr. Michelle Patterson entered the command center. The specialist in alien psychology had become one of Wright's most valuable advisors. "You wanted to see me, Admiral?" Patterson asked. Wright gestured to another screen showing panic on various Vordari worlds. "Your psychological warfare campaign is working even better than expected. Explain." Patterson's eyes gleamed with professional satisfaction. "The Vordari social structure is built on absolute confidence in their superiority. We didn't just attack their ships and colonies. We shattered their fundamental belief system. They're experiencing something close to species-wide psychological shock. Can we use that?" "We already are," Patterson said, pulling up new data. "My team has crafted messages that target their specific cultural anxieties. The broadcasts suggest that humans have been studying them for decades, learning their weaknesses, waiting for the right moment to strike. The truth in these messages makes them impossible to dismiss as mere propaganda." In deep space, Lieutenant Amber Chen led her fighter squadron toward a Vordari communications hub. Her 12 pilots, call sign Valkyries, flew ships that were half the size of standard Vordari fighters but twice as fast. "Remember the plan," Chen said over the squadron channel. "Formation Delta until we breach their outer defenses, then switch pattern Omega. They've never seen humans fly like this before." Her second-in-command, Pete Ramirez, responded, "The alien pilots are still using the same maneuvers they've used for a century. No improvisation." "That's their weakness," Chen replied. "They don't adapt quickly. We do." The Valkyries accelerated toward the massive Vordari station. Immediately, enemy fighters launched to intercept them, moving in predictable patterns that human military analysts had studied for years. "Now!" Chen ordered, and her squadron abruptly split into 3 groups, each executing maneuvers that the Vordari combat computers identified as aerodynamically impossible. The alien pilots, trained to rely on their tactical systems, hesitated, in confusion. That brief moment was all the Valkyries needed. They sliced through the enemy formation, leaving chaos in their wake. Behind Vordari lines, Agent Ryan Cooper moved silently through the shadows of a major alien city. For 15 years he had lived among the Vordari, surgically altered to pass, as a lower caste member of their society. Now it was time to activate the network he had built. Cooper slipped into an unassuming building and touched his hand to a scanner hidden beneath a desk. The wall slid open, revealing a room where a dozen aliens of various species waited. "It's time," Cooper said, his translator converting his words to the Vordari language. "Humanity has begun the counteroffensive. Are you ready to fulfill your part?" One of the aliens, a Vordari with unusual gray markings, stepped forward. "We have waited many cycles for this day. The oppression of the High Command ends now." These were the forgotten ones, species who had suffered under Vordari rule for centuries. Cooper had found them, organized them, and promised them that, when humanity finally showed its true strength, they would have a chance for freedom. "Activate your cells across all 20 provinces," Cooper instructed. "Focus on communications and transport hubs. Remember, minimal casualties. This is about disruption, not revenge." As his underground allies dispersed, Cooper sent a coded message to Earth. "Operation Midnight Sun is active. Expect internal collapse of Vordari provincial governments within 48 hours." On a recaptured human colony world, crowds of freed humans cheered as Earthships landed with supplies and medical teams. Among them walked Dr. Alan Burke, now coordinating the largest recovery effort in human history. "These people were kept in stasis chambers for months," Burke explained to his medical team. "The Vordari were studying human adaptability, trying to understand why we can change and grow so quickly compared to their species." A young doctor looked up from treating a former captive. "They were afraid of us, weren't they?" Burke nodded. "They sensed something in humanity that frightened them, our capacity for rapid change. That's why they struck first, trying to control us before we realized our potential." In the Galactic Conclave, now relocated to a neutral system after the chaos of recent weeks, Ambassador Samuel Garcia addressed the remaining representatives. Many species had withdrawn from the assembly, choosing isolation as the human Vordari. Conflict spread. Earth did not want this war, Garcia said firmly. We spent decades attempting peaceful cooperation. But understand this clearly. We will finish what the Vordari started. The Zelian representative's mechanical voice translated its thoughts. Many here fear that humans will not stop with the Vordari. Your species has revealed capabilities beyond what anyone suspected. What assurance do we have that you will not turn these weapons on others? Garcia's expression remained serious. Judge us by our actions. We have liberated our colonies, yes, but observe our treatment of civilians, even Vordari civilians. We are not engaging in genocide or unnecessary destruction. We want justice, not domination. After the session, Garcia received an encrypted message from Admiral Wright. The Vordari, High Command has requested emergency talks. They're starting to realize the full extent of their miscalculation. Back in Earth's command center, Admiral Wright convened her senior staff to plan the final phase of the counteroffensive. The Vordari are retreating on all fronts, she explained, highlighting key systems on the galactic map. Their home defense fleet is still substantial, but their allies are abandoning them one by one. General Daniels studied the tactical display. They still don't understand how completely we've infiltrated their systems. Their entire defense grid is compromised. More importantly, added Dr. Patterson, their psychological resolve is breaking. The species that prided itself on military dominance for millennia is facing defeat for the first time. They're in cultural shock. Wright nodded. Then it's time for the final push. Captain Mason will lead the diplomatic vessel to their homeworld with our terms, backed by the full human fleet. We don't need to destroy them, just ensure they can never threaten humanity again. On the bridge of the Dawn Treader, Captain, Heather Mason received her new orders. Her ship, once considered merely a diplomatic vessel, now revealed its true nature as one of Earth's most powerful warships. Set course for the Vordari homeworld, she told First Officer Powell. It's time. To complete the mission we began at the conclave. Powell entered the coordinates. The Vordari High Command must be desperate to request talks. What will we offer them? Mason's expression was resolute. The same thing we always wanted, respect and recognition of our sovereignty. But this time, they'll listen. As the Dawn Treader prepared to jump to the Vordari home system, Mason remembered her words at the conclave that had started this conflict. Earth warned the galaxy. Now humanity is done holding back. The galaxy was learning just how true those words had been. The great hall of the Vordari High Command fell silent as Captain Heather Mason walked in. Behind her followed Ambassador Samuel Garcia and Admiral Lauren Wright. No humans had ever been permitted in this sacred chamber before. The fact that they now stood here dictating terms rather than begging for mercy told the whole story of how completely the galaxy had changed. High Commander Zexitral, once proud and dismissive of humans, now looked diminished. His scales had lost their luster, and 2 of his 6 eyes were clouded with stress. The representatives of Earth have arrived as requested, announced a Vordari official, his voice lacking the usual haughty tone. Mason stepped forward. For a moment, she remembered standing before the Galactic Conclave just weeks ago, delivering humanity's final warning. How quickly things had changed. The terms of the Earth Alliance are non-negotiable, she stated clearly. The complete withdrawal of all Vordari forces from human space. Return of all human captives. Reparations for the damage to our colonies. And most importantly, recognition of Earth and all human settlements as sovereign territory, never to be violated again. Zextral's throat sacs pulsed with emotion. You humiliate us with these demands. The Vordari Empire has ruled this sector for 10,000 years. Admiral Wright stepped forward. And yet here we are. Your fleets are in retreat. Your allies have abandoned you. Your economy is collapsing. These terms are generous compared to what you offered humanity. Extinction or experimentation. From the shadows emerged President Diane Foster, who had traveled secretly from Earth for this historic moment. At 67, she had led humanity through its greatest crisis and now would secure its future. High Commander, Foster said calmly. This moment was preventable. Earth sought peaceful coexistence. We warned you repeatedly not to mistake our patience for weakness. Zextral's eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. How did you hide your true capabilities for so long? Our intelligence networks are the best in the galaxy. Ambassador Garcia allowed himself a small smile. Because you never truly studied us. You saw what you expected to see, a primitive species struggling to join the galactic community. You never understood that adaptation is humanity's greatest strength. The Vordari officials conferred quietly. Finally, Zextral spoke again. And if we refuse these terms, will you destroy our homeworld as you could have done days ago? President Foster shook her head. No. Unlike you, we don't target civilian populations or seek to eradicate entire species. If you refuse, we will continue dismantling your empire, piece by piece until you have nothing left but your home system. The choice is yours. A diminished empire or no empire at all. After a tense silence, Zextral pressed his claw against the ancient tablet before him, the Vordari sign of acquiescence. We accept your terms. 1 month later, the rebuilt Galactic Conclave headquarters on Earth's moon hosted representatives from over 200 species. The massive dome offered a stunning view of Earth below, now recognized as the center of a new galactic order. President Foster addressed the assembled delegates, her voice carrying to all corners of the chamber. We gather today not to celebrate victory, but to establish a new foundation for interspecies relations, she said. Earth did not seek dominance. We sought respect. Now we have both, but with them comes responsibility. In the audience, Admiral Wright sat beside Captain Mason. Both women wore formal dress uniforms adorned with new medals that honored their roles in what was now called the Liberation War. Do you think they'll honor the new treaties? Mason whispered. Wright's expression remained cautious. Some will. Others are already planning how to adapt to the new reality. That's why we're maintaining our technological edge. Across the chamber, Dr. Alan Burke led a delegation of recovered human test subjects. Though still bearing the physical and mental scars of their captivity, they stood tall, living symbols of humanity's resilience. The Vordari sought to understand human adaptability through cruel experimentation, Foster continued. They could have simply asked. We would have shared our knowledge, our perspective, our friendship. That offer remains open to all species who approach Earth with respect and peaceful intentions. In orbit above, the Dawn Treader maintained watch alongside a fleet of Earth's most advanced ships. First Officer Eric Powell monitored communications from the bridge. Multiple species are requesting technology sharing agreements, he reported, to the skeleton crew. Especially our phase shift drives and stealth systems. Lieutenant Kevin Ross, now promoted for his heroism in the war, looked up from his station. How much are we actually going to share? Powell smiled. Enough to help, not enough to threaten. That's the new policy. Back in the conclave chamber, Ambassador Garcia took the podium after President Foster. To ensure lasting peace, Earth proposes a new framework for galactic relations, he announced. No species shall interfere with the internal development of another. No technology shall be withheld if it can prevent suffering. No world shall be colonized without the explicit consent of its inhabitants. The chamber erupted in a mixture of applause and concerned murmurs. These principles challenged thousands of years of galactic practice, where powerful species routinely exploited weaker ones. The Zelian representative's mechanical voice rose above the noise. Humans propose to remake galactic law after a single military victory? Many here question whether Earth has the right or the power to enforce such changes. Garcia's response was measured. Earth doesn't seek to enforce these principles through military might. We offer them as the foundation of a more just galaxy, where respect rather than fear governs relations between worlds. In her private office, adjoining the conclave chamber, President Foster met with Dr. Michelle Patterson to review the psychological assessment of the various delegations. The Vordari are still in shock, Patterson explained. They'll need decades to rebuild their society around something other than military dominance. The Zellians are calculating how to position themselves in the new order, and at least 12 species are actively studying how to replicate our adaptability. Foster looked out the window at Earth glowing blue and green against the blackness of space. And will they succeed? Some might, Patterson admitted. But they're starting from a perspective of competition rather than cooperation. That's what they still don't understand about us. Down on Earth, Jake Hoffman had returned to his workshop, now funded by the Earth Defense Force but still operating with the same creative freedom. General Daniels visited him regularly to see his latest innovations. The propulsion system worked better than anyone expected, Daniels said, examining the prototype for an even more advanced drive. What are you working on now? Jake's eyes lit up with excitement. Something completely different. The Vordari thought phase shifting was impressive. Wait until they see dimensional folding. On the reclaimed colony world of New Montana, Maria Sanchez supervised the reconstruction efforts. Where Vordari research facilities once stood, new communities were rising. Children played in parks that had recently been battlefields. Will they come back? Asked a young colonist, looking up at the sky. Maria knelt beside the child. If they do, we'll be ready. But I don't think they will. The galaxy has learned an important lesson about humanity. As the new Galactic Conclave session concluded, President Foster's final words echoed throughout the chamber and across communication channels, to every world in known space. Earth warned the galaxy. Humanity showed its true strength. Now we offer a choice, a future built on mutual respect or a return to the old ways of dominance and subjugation. Earth has made its choice. We await yours. Captain Mason, watching from the back of the chamber, felt a sense of completion. The circle that began with her warning to the conclave had closed. Humanity had proven itself. Now came the harder task, using that power wisely. Ready to head home? Admiral Wright asked, appearing beside her. Mason nodded. Yes, there's a lot of rebuilding to do. As they walked out, Mason looked one last time at the assembled representatives of the galaxy. Some watched humans with newfound respect, others with careful calculation, and a few with genuine friendship. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again.